everyone, welcome to the Book Over, our little book club where we talk about books, especially those ones that give us book hangovers. I'm Sarah, and with me is
Megan. Hi.
And today we are talking about Lords of Pain, Lords of Wrath, and Lords of Mercy, the series of the Royals of Forsyth University. I just call it FU, which I love. I love that.
I was just going to show my sticker that they sent because I signed up for theirs.
I'm jealous. Mm-hmm. And if you have not read any of the books in the series, we're going to talk about all three. Then you're more than welcome to wait and come back to us later. We will be talking about the book and the twists and the turns and everything.
All the dark goodness.
Yes. The dark goodness. Oh my gosh. You warned me. So Megan suggested this book to me because I was asking for a stepbrother romance. And she's like, you should just, try this out. They're, Lords of Mercy's coming out soon, So I did. She's like, if you can get through the first chapter, then you're good to go. Yeah. And I was completely fine.
Yeah, I love that. I was wondering what level you were at. It's good to know that that's your darkness level. You're good.
I was so fine. And I was like, and then you start questioning yourself. Why am I fine with this? This shouldn't be okay.
I'm way past it. I'm like, this is what I'm looking for. Give me all of this.
Yeah, I was like, I'm really loving these scenes. And wow, yeah. And you know what, Megan, we're learning to embrace this side of ourselves, and it's okay. It's okay. And that was a part of the book, but this series I feel like is great. We're doing it for December here, and I feel like this series is such a good series. To me, it does say holidays because there's the family, but I feel like nothing says family more than the fights, the bullying, debasement, lust, love, sex. I just feel like it just, to me, if you want, if you need something dark and kinky to get you through the holidays, this is it.
Well, and then you get the holidays in the books. You have Thanksgiving, you have Christmas, and in the last book, and you have New Year's. So you get a little taste of it in Lords of Mercy.
Yes. Yeah. And you also in Lords of Wrath get Halloween.
Halloween, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you do get a good chunk of our holidays in there.
You do, yeah.
Yeah. And I loved it all. And I did get frustrated for a while there. And I don't know how to say it.
You and I read it differently. I read it as it came out, and you read it, you binge read it, right?
I binge read it.
Yeah.
One after the other. So that was the thing. So with story, I liked story.
Mm-hmm. I do too. And I loved her name being Story. There's something poetic about it.
Yes. And my problem with Story was she fought herself so much.
She was fighting that darkness, and the desire. Well, kind of I think you were saying with the book. Right. I think a lot of people are finding, they're like, why do I like this? Why do I like this taboo? And she was like that too.
Exactly. And so that was it took a while for me to get there, because at first, I'm she's talking about how she likes it, but she doesn't like it. And then how dare them? And then she's so angry at them. But I was like, but you liked it. And so for a really long time, I felt like she was playing the victim and in a way, and really, but like you said, she was fighting it. And it was me as a reader, because I'm I like this. But it was hard for me for a while to really embrace it, until by the book 3, I'm let's do this, Yeah. But and that was the same thing with her, It was a lot. And I that's the thing about the whole series, is just that from book 1, the progress of everybody in every book was different, with their relationship with each other and their personal growth too.
Yeah. and it is so dark, especially, the prologue, but again, this is one of those dark ones that I think hit just right, and it's like it's again, it's somehow easy to read even though it's hard to read. I had seen a post in this dark taboo group I'm in, and it's written by Angel Lawson and Samantha Rue. They co-write it, and Samantha Rue had said like a lot of it was like things that she had seen, like people like that she liked in the taboo group. She's seen people like in the taboo group, so it does hit a lot of different like kinks. There's the sleeping one, which has like a long name that I can't say.
Yeah.
There's like blood play, knife play, lots of dubious consent. I've gotten into some like little debates with people whether it's dub-con or non-con, and I'm like, for example, the scene in the car in the funhouse with the knife.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's dub-con because he said, Raph says, I will stop if you want me to. And she's like, no, please don't stop.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's the definition of dub-con.
Yes.
But some people are like, no, that's non-con. And I'm like, no, that's dub-con. That's dubious consent.
Yeah.
So I do feel like, it's opening a lot of people's eyes up to these kinks and these fantasies.
I
Mm-hmm.
really loved the killer.
Yeah.
And she was okay. Like, she hated it, but she, was it the last book, Lords of Mercy, where like Tristan is filming her because she's like dreaming of him, and like that was his Christmas gift, kind of, and it was like because like she liked it. I mean, what better way to wake up? Like, I'm sorry, but it's like, and that was when he was gentle with her too. When she was awake and he was awake, and he had to be rough. He had to have power over her. And that was something that, he had to work through personally and develop. And he was able to eventually be gentle and stuff. But like, I forgot which guy it was, but one of Raph was watching once, and he was watching him, come in the room and do that while she was asleep. And he's like, this is him. This is how he makes love to her.
Mm-hmm. And Tristan too. Tristan like was a sex referee for.
I loved him.
Yeah, like in Lords of Wrath, he like was making sure, like, because Story knew she got drunk because she knew that it was part of his ritual, and she was just like, I'm gonna get drunk and like let him. And then Tristan like was there, and that's when she got mad at Tristan because she remembered Tristan like being part of that, but like she also, I don't know. And then the sex referee.
I love the sex referee. I loved it. I loved him doing it. He's my favorite out of all the guys. And I was expecting it to change. I really was, because that happens a lot with RHs with me, where they keep on rotating. He never rotated down.
Same.
He from the start was my top guy. And not the prologue, not the very first chapter, because I wasn't sure who I was.
And he the most kind of in the prologue,
But the way he took care of her and then refereeing for her, because Killer was too, I'm sorry, I just use their nicknames because I feel like I know them personally. So Killer was just too rough of her, and he would bruise her, and and so like, and
he didn't know how. He didn't know any other way.
Right. And so Tris was there to make sure she didn't get too hurt. That he could still do his thing he needed to do for his game. But I love that Killer let him, you could tell when he was getting frustrated with him, like, dude. But I love that, like, they had that connection where they all like knew each other's signals, like, okay, like, I'm back off a little bit, he's getting upset, but I loved. And then like, just for the fact that Tris, I felt like, was like a lot of times was willing to not be a part of those activities to referee. Like, he was all in with Story.
He really genuinely cared about her well-being. And I think she thought she kept, I think their issues were she kept thinking Tristan thinks of me as a pet. I'm a pet. I'm an object. And she was misreading him. I really genuinely think he cared about her. And it's because of that first scene where he's at his worst with her. And so she's viewing him through that lens where, you know, he's at his worst. And that was her first experience with him. But I mean, even the tracker, it was for her own protection. I know it's invasive, but it was for her own protection. He just wanted to protect her.
But after from the whole book, the one thing I had issue with was the tracker.
Really?
The tracker, I understood why she was so pissed. And I did understand it was for her protection. And in the end, it was great that she had it, I feel like. But the fact that like no say, no talk about it, they just forced it on her. That was my problem with it, was just like the force of it. You know, if it was more like, we really want to do this, this is why, you know, this is how it works, we could turn it off later, or, you know, whatever. Like if there was just a little more conversation before, but that's how the guys were, right? They were going to be forceful. That's just as going to be kings, and they're going to do that. That's just what you are when you're a lord.
And that was the lady, and that's how a lady's supposed to be. They had to kind of get over them and themselves and those concepts and those constructs, and find a balance where they could still have the parts they like. I love that she had to choose them, that she did leave. You know, well, the thing is, they had to have that big moment. I know a lot of people don't like that scene. I really liked that scene because I'm a damaged person.
Which scene?
The funhouse scene.
Oh. So yes.
The scene that people have like the most weird mixed feelings towards. And I'm just like, yeah, I love this scene.
We needed the scene. And as much as it was not.
It brought everything together. How she felt afterwards. She felt used. Maybe if they didn't treat her the way they did afterwards. Okay, she did that. She did, you know, she did Wrath dirty. I mean, she was getting her revenge. That's the thing.
She did her revenge.
She gets even. Yes. And then, you know, they get even. It becomes a whole thing. And then, you know, Killer sees what it's doing to her, and then it's not fun and games, and that maybe like they aren't on the same level they thought they were on, and that I don't think he thought it affected her the way it did until he saw her with the glass, and he's like, okay, we have to let her go. This isn't working anymore. But then they couldn't, and then Wrath, like, you know, saves her in the pit, and you know, gives all the money he'd been saving for her. That was something. I was like, thank God for him in that pit. And the headphones
were so incredibly sweet. That was so sweet when he gave that to her. And then he didn't have any, so he had to listen to everything that was going on. But he did that for her to make it between him and her. And the fact that he was already waiting forever for his turn with her.
Yeah.
And then that had to be it. But I just loved, because that showed so much of Dimitri right there. And I love that how there's two of him, right? There's Dimitri and the Wrath, and then that fun house, you know, with later on when they're like, you know, why he did the R and not the D is because there's two sides of him, and Dimitri would have never done that, but Wrath would. And I love that. And
me too.
It was, you know, it's so, you know, like we're talking about carving initials in somebody's skin, but it was just like, I don't love that they did that, but I love like the reasoning behind that. And I loved how like they all don't come to terms to it, but understand the mistakes they made.
And they turn it into something later. They turn the initials that gets made into something later.
They turned the bad into, I don't want to call it good, but they flipped it.
They made it meaningful to them and their story. And that cabin, I mean, I think the cabin is like my favorite in the whole series, scene wise, because it's like where everything comes to light. Finally, you know, book 2, you get the cabin after everything you've been put through, and she, you know, she tells them about her stalker, she tells them about Daniel, they believe her, they're on her side. Tristan apologizes, he feels terrible. I really loved Tristan. I'm sorry. I loved him feeding her. I loved him giving her the car. I just love the way he cared
all
for
of
her.
it. And I need a Tris. I need him in my life because like there was one point where he's like, I need you to eat this because you're low on B12 and that's why you're sluggish in the afternoon. And I'm like, I get sluggish in the afternoons. I'm like, I take B12 because I'm vegetarian. So I was like, I should be taking a little bit more probably of my B12 then. Like that was just like, I love that he took care of her that way. And I love that he did apologize.
Yes.
I understand where he was coming from. I understand like what he was dealing with at that time. I love him being a pyro.
I love that too. Yeah.
I love it. And how he loves it. You can tell he loves it. The fires that we witnessed him setting, I loved it because he knew what to do. He knew what he needed. Like when they did the office building and like, didn't he comment on like how gorgeous it was? And he was like, look at that. And I'm like, I don't know. I was like, that is just, I love that about him. This well put together man.
Yeah.
And then his thing is that.
He's a mercer, yet he's a pyro. He wants to be down in the dirt doing the pyro, like, yeah. And he's got the mind too. He's the strategic one. He's got that strategic mind, which I really love. And Wrath is like the poetic, musical, guy, that's got some learning issues, and Killer's like the stepbrother, gruff, football player who can't communicate his emotions. But
I mean, once we learn Killer's story and we find out about like his dad, and then so like book one, we're getting hints on stuff. We think we know a lot. We know about Ted, we know about his dad, we know like there's reasons why she left. They're not going to listen. She's not going to tell them. Book two was harder for me because there was a couple of times where she, like when she decided to like set Ted on them. And that was hard because I'm like, why won't you? I get you're mad. I get that you're mad, but I'm like, also you like some of this, like it that was hard for me because I was just like, I just really wanted to talk some common sense into all of them. And I wanted her to like just tell them about Ted because I'm like, now somebody's like, are you really willing for them to die? Like, I know you're going to regret that. Like you're, and but the more we learned about everybody in that second book and even in the third book, and like at the like Daniel, like, oh my gosh. And like I remember like, Killer talking about his dad, like he's thinking it's a gift. And I thought it was weird, but then when it comes to like show that like Daniel was like into, dealing with like the human trafficking and stuff.
And prostitution.
Like, that was like, whoa. And then finding out even more from it.
Yeah.
That was, so I'm like, I can understand
why he would think that and how he was probably raised to view women. And that was rough. And it was interesting, like, story, her love for her mom, which I mean, I think all of us have a certain love for our mothers. Most of us, like on the relationship, but it was just interesting because I'm like, her mom neglected her a lot. She did what she had to do, but like that, even a lot of that didn't come to light. Like she hinted at stuff, but like we didn't know her mom was an actual whore until she says it. Like they talked about like she was safe, but she never really said like things about like her being in the room, like the bathrooms waiting out and stuff, I think until like the end of the first book or the beginning of the second one. Yeah, it was definitely in the first book at some point. Yeah,
but I feel like it took a while to get there. So some of it I wasn't quite sure why, like some of it
they were saying certain things.
But that was really
the mother relationship. Oh, that was what did you see that coming? Who did you think Ted was? You saw it coming? You thought it was the mom?
Not right away. So
not right away. Okay.
I felt like Daniel was just too obvious. So I thought he was definitely a player, but I didn't think he was actually the person. I was at one point thought it was her friend that she was on the phone with, getting ready to do the sugar baby stuff with. Because I'm like, it has to be somebody who knows her that's upset she left.
I forgot about that.
But then that never, moved. And then Sal Calright guy,
Mhm.
I thought that was just too easy. I'm
Yeah,
like, the
especially
book's not
after
over yet. He's not Ted. But before that, her mom did a couple of things in that book where I was like, she knows more. When it came to light that she knew about the Velvet Hideaway.
Yeah, and Thanksgiving, there were
There were
little hints.
hints, but then she'd be surprised about something or
And
act
then she would
surprised about
cry
something.
over Daniel's death and be like, and the way she would talk about the boys. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went back and forth on her mom. At one point, I was like, I wonder if it's her mom because it has to be someone.
Yeah.
And then it went away and then it came back.
I kept thinking the attorney. I kept thinking it's the lawyer. I knew there was something up with him. They did mention him, suspicion on him a little bit, but from the get-go, I thought there was something strange about this lawyer guy. So I thought maybe it was the lawyer and he had access. So he was involved, but he wasn't. So it all made sense though that
I'm happy
had access to the footage and everything. Yes. It all made sense.
Yes. And I'm really happy about it.
The way it went. Yeah, me too. I like
the
way
it was intense, but I'm happy, that got resolved, obviously. And because at one point I did worry when I was like, no, it can't be the mom because she doesn't know or she's good at acting. Because I think it was like around the time she was happy she was going to the party with Tristan.
Yes. Yes.
And so I was like, okay, it's not her.
Be with the Mercer. She's like, yes, be with the Mercer, be with the Mercer.
But now I get it because if she gets to be with the Mercer and he dies, then it goes to her, so like I get now why she was excited, but in the moment I was like, but I was worried about Marcus, the other frat guy that was now and then like babysitting with her.
Oh yeah.
But then they said he was like gay and like he wasn't a threat. But I still was like, well, he could still be a threat. Like he could be like the son of a dad that he caught doing stuff with, or you know what I mean? So I was worried at one point with Marcus because I liked him. But I'm really, I surprisingly, I was happy it ended up being the mom and that I kind of like, I wasn't super surprised when it showed up to her because I did think, it made sense. But I was just like, I'm happy that Story, I felt bad because like the guys are thinking that Story's like gonna turn on them and they're like, it's okay, we deserve it, which was like, wow, like you're finally to that point where you understand. And then she's just playing her mom and Mrs. Crane, like,
oh, Mrs. Crane is like the standout winner of this whole series. She's the best. Mrs. Crane is just everything. She's so good. And to learn the history when they were boys and then she was trying to like raise them right and the little hints she would give and I really liked Mrs. Crane. And she wasn't automatically on Story's side. She gave her a tough time. She was trying to get wrath with Augie. She's like she finally like came to terms with it. I just I loved Mrs. Crane.
Right.
And I don't know, are we at the point where we talk about the epilogue yet? Because I love the epilogue so much. Okay.
I loved it.
I think what happened is that there's different royals and they were talking about how they wanted to do other royals and the princes have been mentioned a lot and there was a poll and it was like, which royals do you want next? And I think princes might have won the poll, but they're doing dukes next, which
I'm so excited about dukes because we didn't get a lot.
As soon as that character showed up though, I knew she had to be the next female and I was like, ooh, Pretty Nick's gonna be in it and I like Pretty Nick. I like this whole dynamic that they've got going on. So that'll be interesting. But I think finally people are seeing that people want pregnancy in some of these reverse harems that aren't just the very, very end. I thought that was a really cool extended epilogue.
Yes.
And I thought it was perfect for these characters to have something so real and grounding when they have this like different relationship and this like dark past to come to terms with like having a family.
Yeah. I loved it. I called it in my head, when she's like, no, my shirts are fitting. I'm like, girl, you're pregnant. And I just, and then I love how like Tris comes up and is like filling her up and he's like, these are heavier, you're pregnant, and I just,
he would know her body better than she would.
Exactly. And that's why I was thinking, I'm like, girl, listen to him. He knows he knows what day it is, he knows when your period should be, he knows. And like I just and this all the guys' reactions, you know, how like Killer was just staring at her stomach, and like Wrath was just like, I loved how each guy had a different reaction. I loved how they all agreed that like no matter what, and they were going to decide like who the child was from. But part of me really wants to know, just because I'm like, is it a cute little baby that's going to flex in his sleep like Tris? Is it going to be, you know, a raging, like, you know, football player like Killer? Is he going to be, or she going to be like musical? You know, and I love that it's a girl. But I love like even the scene where like they're waiting for the sonogram, and like Tris is like freaking out, and they're like, so she finally talked to him and was like, it's gonna be okay because of him and all of his twin stuff. That like I love how she gets to the point where she's so into this relationship with them that she like can read them so well. And she does that throughout the book, right? I mean, the whole series, even in the first book, she can read them really well. And that's how she was able to play them. She knew like he likes this, he likes that. And like even like with Wrath, like how he was like comfort and home and slow mornings. And I love that. And I loved how we get that all the way through to that extended epilogue, was just everything. And it was so good for us. We went through hell and back with these characters of her not liking and liking things that they're doing, them doing those things, as you know, and then the whole Ted thing and the whole South Side thing and Dad and all that. And then even the Mercers and how they were treating her.
And I love how Tristan stood up for her. I love how he brought her and he danced with her at midnight. I know we're focusing a lot on Tristan.
I know. I'm sorry. And like, and that's why I try to talk about Wrath, because I love his journey too. Him learning how to read for the baby, you know, practicing that. I love
reading to the baby.
I love that for him. And you know, can I just say one of my favorite scenes, and I forgot what they called it. Oh, well, they were talking about if they did their Christmas party, and what did they call it? Like something candy cane or something, where the lady looks at all the lords cocks, right? And like says whose is whose. I loved that scene. I don't know. I loved how like, because she's, you know, rolling, and I love how, you know, she was fully for it. And then she's just like, well, his is crooked and he knows how to use it, and his, you know, he takes really good care of his. And then I forgot what she said about Killers, but I was just like, oh, thick, right? He's thick. Sorry. You know, and I was just like, I don't know why, but I love that. And because it just also like, you know, Dick's and personality. It was like how theirs were, it was their personalities too. And this how she like knew that.
Well, and throughout the whole book, see, that's the thing. You have the whole, well, the first book you have the points and stuff. The second book's kind of a revenge, and I feel like the third book, and it was very long, which I loved. I feel like you have the continuing storyline of dealing with the Royals, dealing with Southside, dealing with the stalker, but you also have them just like coming to terms in their relationship and also living life. Like I just felt like you got these moments. You got the moments of like, you know, Killian retiring. You got the moments of them at the Mercer party. You get these like, you know, just these real their Christmas together, even their Thanksgiving together. But like, you know, Story doing the fight. You know, you get these like scenes that are just like them kind of being in the relationship, and it's still interesting. It's like you're getting to live with the characters in the relationship,
right?
And I think that really extends to the epilogue, where you get each of the guys' perspective while she's pregnant through the whole pregnancy, getting to live life with them, and it's still interesting. And the characters are all done so well. They're all so multi-dimensional. They're all book boyfriend material. You can read a book and you can be like, the characters are fine. No one's really book boyfriend material. These were all we love Tristan, but they're all standout characters. Killer is a standout character. Wrath is a standout character. They're just so well done and well written. It's just, it blows my mind.
I am curious. I really am curious on who, because I feel like they all, depending on your type, which I was surprised. I was expecting Killer to be my man.
Me too.
And
I hear people like Wrath a lot. I think Wrath is like a favorite.
For some reason, I don't know what it is about Wrath, but I'm struggling to have him be up there on my list. And I don't know what it is. I don't know. Like, and because he would have been my type. He would have been. I usually go for the musician.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, I'm not sure what it is. But then like in Killer, yeah. But for
someone has to fall to the bottom. We always talk about this in RH. You have to have one that like isn't your top. But I will say that all three of these are book boyfriends for me. They're like, they hit that mark.
Yes. I think what I liked about each one is like a lot in RH, you know, you have one that's the sensitive and one's that this is this and that. But they're kind of also not fully that way, you know, like they all can be sensitive and they all can be like that. But these guys, I felt like were so well done and so different, but it wasn't like glaringly different. Does that make sense?
Yes, like, they meshed so well together.
They meshed well, but they also were so separate on personality.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's what I really liked, was like, it was just like, sometimes when I'm reading RH and they're talking before they say who just showed up, it takes a while for you to go like, who is this? It's just said that. But in this book, it was so easy for me just to know, oh, that's Killer. Oh, that's Wrath. Oh, that's that. And that doesn't usually happen for me in books. So I just feel like it was so well written in that, where like now I feel like I could be, I don't want to be Story, but I could be Story. I could know them that well. Like I could hear somebody say this and be like, oh my gosh, can you stop with your nutrition stuff? You know, or like Wrath, like, come on, you know, like just go play the piano. Like, you know, like, like that's what I love that. And maybe it's because I just read all 3 books in a row over this week, like nonstop. My life's been the Lord.
But no, I've read them spread out though, and I feel the same way. I've been like salivating for these books. Like,
oh, I bet. I'm so happy I didn't have to wait for them. I'm happy you finally because I've seen people post about them, but I just
glad that you
recommended it. And you know, I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And
I was arcing Lords of Mercy when I wrecked it too. So I think I was either reading it or had just finished it. And I was like, oh my God, it's so good. Like, you have to read it. I'm so glad and you were asking for Stepbrother, and it took me a minute. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this is the ultimate Stepbrother.
Well, and I was looking for holidays too.
Yeah. And I said that too. I was like, there is a scene at the end of the last book, but I didn't know. I'm so glad that you liked it and got there, because I do say to people, like, you know, the prologue will determine if this book series is for you or not, because it isn't for everybody. Like I said, there's like, you know, not everyone's into dubcon and dark kinks and blood and all this kind of stuff, but I don't know, if you are, it's so perfect. There's just so many king. And it's not even about that. I mean, it really is the plot and the characters, and then like it's just a great bonus. Are these like
the kinks are a bonus to it? I feel like it's the cherry on top.
They are. They're the cherry on. I like
cherry
that.
On top.
The cherry on top. I love that sweet cherry. Oh my God! Like the whole thing was so good.
Or a sour cherry.
So because I was on the archive, I was sent later these like 3 chapters. I don't know where they was put in the book, where it was like the first 3 chapters in the first book in the perspective of the guys. Did you get that
in the first book?
It should have been in the last book. Was that in the last book? Because they said they added it till the last book. I thought
if they added it, so it's perspectives of the guys of the first book and the last book.
So it was the prologue, you know, the prologue scene. It was like
the laundry room.
Yeah, it was like Tristan's perspective of the laundry room and their perspectives immediately after.
You know what though? Because I needed to move on to reading Credence for our show. Once the book ended, I didn't read any of the extras. There's like an hour left on the Kindle. I just stopped as soon as it was like the end. I just moved on to my next book because I needed it for time.
That's what the hour was. Then that's what it was.
I'll go back.
They had wrote it like the night before they put it out and put it in there.
Oh my gosh, I love. We've talked about this before on the show. I love POVs. So I am definitely going to jump back and like read that, because it gives so much more well-rounded. I mean, it's already so well-rounded, but I just love being inside their heads and just really knowing what their thought process is.
It was so interesting to get inside of, Tristan's head during the whole, and their whole, their whole mindset during the prologue, and like immediately after, what was Killer thinking when he let his friend share like the love of his like life, and Tristan, the whole thing. It was really interesting. I think they were so infatuated with her from the beginning. Like they really, like if she had stayed around, I think that she would have,
I think they would have ended up together. I do agree with that. And they do mention throughout the story now and then, like Killer will say something about back in the laundry room, like, did I want it to be me, but I knew Tristan needed it. So there were parts where like they commented in their POVs about something like that. But I'm definitely will go back and
read that. It was interesting. It was an interesting
day. Yeah. Because I absolutely love this story, and I loved all of it. And I don't know, I feel like it might surprise some people if you read it. And there's like, we were talking about the funhouse scene, and that one I think might have been the roughest, because it was needed. I feel like for a good story, you need some of that grittiness into it. And she liked some of the stuff that they did in the funhouse too. Like
he did say, I will stop, and she said, don't.
Yeah.
And yes, it is different in books than in real life, because that's also a big thing. Yes, in real life, no, obviously not. But the book world and book kinks are different than real life. It's two very separate entities. So sure. I think that's important to note, just because, like I said, I've seen people discussing, in groups, like dubcon, non-con, and like, and the whole, that whole thing. But it's definitely different in the book world. So yes. It's dark goodness. I cannot wait for Duke. It's February. It's coming out, I think, like February, for like the day after Valentine's Day, which is just perfect, I think.
I wish it was before, because I wouldn't mind spending my Valentine's Day with some Dukes. And then that's what I feel like we didn't get a lot of the Dukes, until this last book in the series, Lords of Mercy. And I'm really excited to get more, but I'm excited that they're moving on in this world. And I feel like we're going to love, I'm going to love it. And I have to say, like, for like our last call part of it is like, been talking to Megan about this, and I think I'm going to have to shop here. They're on Angel Lawson's Instagram. There's a link to their merchandise store, and they have right now merchandise, and it's not all the guys. And I was saying, like, there's like a Wrath blanket, and I'm like, okay, someone can cuddle with Wrath. I need a Tris blanket, and then I need one with all three, so I can pick who I want to cuddle with at night. But there's some like cool, I love their merchandise, and I think that's like, I'm buying myself for Christmas. Because
I mean, they need to have a Killer blanket, because Killer and
at night. Yes, right. No, it's just
you want Killer in bed.
And they have different sizes, so you can have one that you just cuddle with, like slightly wrap around you, or you could get like a huge like quilt size for your bed, like it's whatever you want. But it just
some pillows and just kind of make your own man with them. I love I think they did a great job with their merch store. It's like everything's beautiful. I think they said they're going to be adding more, so
I hope so. And maybe I should hold off. I think I'm going to get the coffee mug.
Get it. I definitely want something for the holidays too. There's a couple book things I want, so we'll see.
I know, it's so hard. I always just buy myself gifts now. So
me too. I'm like, don't get me anything, I'll pick it out.
Yeah, exactly. It's just easier that way. When you get to a certain age, it's like, I'll just wrap. I do is I get it and then I give it to my husband. I go wrap it.
I used to send my ex. This is like my first Christmas without my ex in 4 years. But I used to send him like my Amazon wish list, and then I would have my best friend send him like book stuff. Like merch store. Like that's how I got most of my Jay Bree merch. Was I had my best friend because he was terrible at giving gifts. I'm like, just like send him this link and say how obsessed I am. And then that's before I got over it, and I was just like, here's my Amazon wish list. Just take from here.
Right.
So I swear he got me like one coaster once. It looked like, I swear it was an ashtray.
Oh gosh.
He was so bad. He was so bad at giving gifts. It was like one Wonder Woman coaster that I swear to God was an ashtray.
Well, men are so interesting because, he might have had a thought in his head, like she likes to drink cold water.
Wonder Woman.
Or, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there's times where like my husband will give me something but there was like, once you find out, he's like, well, you like this. And you're like, oh, like, then you go, okay, I see the train of thought there.
Well, I made the mistake with this ex of saying I liked a couple things, and it just stuck, like cats, or I don't know. I told him about Paw Patrol because I'm a preschool teacher, and it became a running joke where he'd buy me Paw Patrol things. It was very strange.
Yes. Well, it might be good that this is your first year without.
That's what everyone says. Everyone's like, good riddance. He was strange. Hey,
there you go.
Watching this, if you're watching this ex, on you, buddy.
So good. All right. Share the book. Sorry. I don't have a hair of the book, you guys. I'm sorry. I can't with this one. I just finished reading it.
Okay.
The whole series. So I'm having to think here. I mean, I could do something really sweet, like holidays. I would recommend Jingle Wars, which is by Veronica Eden and our Homes. That one's really cute. It's like very cutesy. There is some steam. It's based off of like Christmas in a town that does like big things for Christmas. So I would do that, I think, if you needed to really come back in from this. Yeah.
Oh, for me, let's see. I was really hungover after this. It was really, really tough getting back into books after I mean, this one like killed me. I think the only thing that got me out was reading. I had an arc for what is it called? Paradise Lagoon for the Harlington Crew.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was just an arc that got me out of that book slump. I'm trying to think of any others that have like the dub con kind of situation.
I know.
We might just have, they might be in the group.
Immoral
I might have recommendations.
Right. Immoral Confessions from Our Homes has some dub con in it.
I know. I have a bunch on my list. I love dub con. I just can't think of any off the top of my head at the moment.
Right. It's hard. Ha. Sorry. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to us talk about our lords, and we hope that you enjoyed it. We're looking forward to the Dukes. Isn't that beautiful? Okay. Sorry, if you're watching, you can see Megan holding up stuff. And
if you're not, sorry, I'm holding up things.
but we hope everyone has a wonderful time reading this and enjoyed it as much as us. And we will see you next time on the book over.
Bye.